So imagine getting super motivated to lose body fat and you decide, I'm going to carve out some time to work out. I'm going to carve out some time for some healthier eating. I'm going to put together a low calorie food plan. I'm going to plan everything out. I'm going to make the time in my calendar. And then after 2 weeks, you check the scale and the scale hasn't changed at all. Maybe it even went up a pound or two. You're thinking to yourself, how could this possibly be? How could it be that I weighed the same or even a little less before I took on this plan than where I am now being on it for 2 weeks? And I'm going to explain. And the whole reason here, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's that that scale is not an indicator of actual fat loss. And this is probably one of the biggest myths, the biggest scams that's been out there in fitness. And it's not a new scam either. It's been around forever. People check the scale, the regular scale that just tells you your weight and your weight only. And they're thinking, if I'm losing body fat, how come it's not showing on the scale? Well, here's why. When someone embarks on a fat loss journey, they're usually going to eat more fruits and vegetables, and those are high water foods. Just means there's more water in them. That's going to be passed on to you. So your total body water, all the water that's making up your body, is going to go up because while you're on this fat loss program, you're eating more fruits and vegetables than you were previously. In fact, most people will also start cutting down on salts, whether they mean to or not. They'll eat less salty food, and they're not going to have as much of a diuretic effect. And therefore, also, you're going to retain a little bit more water. So, to gain water weight within a couple of weeks of being on a weight loss program, it's totally normal. It happens all the time. And it's healthy. And also to gain muscle tissue is also extremely common. On some weight loss programs, we're deliberately trying to gain muscle tissue. In fact, usually that's the way we want to do it. On some programs, maybe somebody's not necessarily trying to gain muscle, but they're probably going to anyway. Their growth hormone and testosterone levels will usually spike from all the new activity and the strenuous activity. And because you're using just more muscles in a more vigorous kind of way, you're generally going to gain some muscle tissue. You could even gain bone mineral density as well, although that's usually going to be to a lesser degree. So what I'm saying is, if you embark on any kind of fat loss program, you're likely to gain some water weight, you're likely to gain some muscle tissue, and you really could gain a little bit of bone mineral tissue, bone mineral density as well. Now, those three added up in this example I just gave you after 2 weeks could easily account for the same amount of fat that you lost. So for example, if you lose 2 pounds the first week in fat, 2 pounds the second week in fat, but during those 2 weeks, you've also gained about 4 pounds, maybe even more in muscle, bone, and water. Well, the scale is going to show you not having lost any weight, right? But that's okay because you actually did, not only did you lose the body fat in this example, but you did some other great things as well. Your body has more water to work with, which is important for exercise tolerance and for all its functional processes as well. And and again, if you've gained muscle or bone, those are really good things. And so I've seen this time and time again as people are looking at only the scale, and after a couple of weeks or so, they're thinking, this isn't going very well. I've even seen a lot of MDs do this too. In the early part of my career, some MDs would send their patients to me, and the patients would come back and they'd have the same scale weight or similar scale weight. And the doctors would say, well, your weight's not really changing these first few weeks. And all I could think was, well, sure, because of all the reasons that I just explained to you here, is that they're gaining a lot of good weight as well while they're losing some of the unhealthy weight. So you might be asking, well, then what do I do? What is the solution here? If I can't use the scale, how do I go about this? The answer is body composition. Knowing your body composition is critical. The problem is it's not easy. There are a million different home devices. Most are in the form of scales where you do step up on top of a scale just like a regular standard scale. And some are in the form of handheld devices that you're holding on to, and they're going to send some beams through your body and figure out about what your body composition is. Body composition is helpful because if you get it done right, it'll tell you how much of you is fat mass and how much of you is everything else. So that way you actually know what's happening. You can see the fat mass coming down throughout your program, and you can also see your muscle tissue, for example, coming up. So it's really great. The problem, though, like I said, most of the ones on the market are not terribly accurate. The few that are good, I do find Tanita is very accurate. Tanita. Most of their models are pretty accurate. And Omron as well has a couple of handheld devices that seem quite good. They hold up really well in most of our testing. But the other thing that you could do is just to stay away entirely from home devices and put a little bit more money into DEXA scans or any kind of clinical assessment of your body composition. Now, this is not something you can do at home, so you do have to take the time to drive somewhere. There's usually a pretty healthy expense in there of around $100 or so. And of course, I know when you're on a weight loss program, you're usually putting a lot of time and money into everything from a coach to healthier food to a gym, etc. So I realized that you have to pick and choose here as to whether the finances and the time are going to be worth it. But I do think there's a lot of value in checking your body composition so that you actually know what's happening. That way you can really test the merits of your program and all the decision making. If you're accidentally burning muscle tissue, then that's certainly a bad thing. You want to know about it before too many weeks or months pass by. And at the same time, if you're not losing the body fat that you would expect from the caloric deficit that you've created, well, then you want to intervene there too and see what's going on. You could have a thyroid problem. It could be something in terms of the way you're managing or not managing stress. It could be a lot of other things. So anyway, the takeaway from this video is that I definitely recommend checking your body composition if that's something that's feasible for you. If not, the very best thing you can always do is just make sure that your program is clinically accurate. I do recommend hiring a very good coach to make sure they can guide you properly so that your time that you're putting in is being used well. Anyway, everybody, if you'd like to meet with me for free, you can do so by scheduling down below. You can also learn a lot more at my website. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.